Hello you plonkers and welcome back to the Drewzy channel where I talk about football frequently. Wherever the video's been, buddy. Obviously been travelling Europe for the last 9-ish months, so I haven't really been able to make as much AFL content as I used to. But I just thought, the season's done now. I've watched Freo all year, so I might as well chuck my opinions online and tell you why I thought the 2023 Fremantle Dockers season was not a failure. I know we fell out of the top 8 and we looked like a pile of steaming dog shite at some points this season, but there's always positives that you can take out of a season, and I'm going to tell you which I thought were the most positive things. I will inform you that next season I'll be back better than ever. I'll potentially be living in Melbourne making the best content in bloody AFL YouTube, so do not go anywhere. I will be back making content next year, thick and fast. And the last thing before we get into the video, if you're a footballer looking to follow a pre-season plan heading into 2024, my business Drewzy's Athlete Academy is now offering pre-season programs. These programs aren't bogus. I've tried and tested these programs on elite state level athletes, some who are now playing in the AFL and AFLW. I've got pre-season running programs which I've delivered to my Perth Demons future squad who I worked with, which massively improved their 2K time trials and just their overall game fitness as well. Repeat efforts, being able to sprint better, run faster for longer. If you want to be able to run out 4 quarters and be strong when you play footy next season, Drewzy's Athlete Academy is all you need. Send a DM to drewzy.athleteacademy on Instagram saying AFL preseason, and together we can make 2024 a successful year on the field. Right, let's talk about Freo. Why was this season not a failure if we finished 5th from bottom Drewzy? Well, obviously it was shit. I'm not denying that. But when you think about it, JL says we had 25% list turnover this year from last year, and they knew that we were going to take a hit this year going into it. The fans, we were very optimistic given what we saw last year, but I think the coaches knew and the higher-ups at the club knew it was going to be a tough season. To lose David Mundy, Rory Lobb, Griffin Logue, Darcy Tucker, Blake Acres, I think there was someone else in there. But to lose all these guys, these are players that have played over 100 games at the club or 100 games at the AFL level. So for them to leave, that takes away so much experience from our side. And so many of our games this year have just been lost due to inexperience or just a lack of composure when the going gets tough. And that's where those mature guys really shine and lead your club to victory. So we've lost all those guys, but I want to talk about the new wave of players that have really stood out this year. In particular, I want to talk about Jai Amos, Neil Erasmus, and Matt Johnson. If you think about the 2018 and 2019 draft classes, that's Sarong, Brayshaw, Chera, who we don't speak about, but Hayden Young, Liam Henry, who we don't bloody speak about anymore, Jesus Christ. But we are already seeing Sarong, Brayshaw, and Hayden Young be the core of our squad. They are literally 1, 2, and 3 best players on the field, Brayshaw, Sarong, and Hayden Young. That they've only been in the system for 3 years. Strong's just become All-Australian, and Brayshaw's already won the AFLPA Player of the Year. So 2 genuine superstars we have on our list. And from what I've seen from Matt Johnson in particular this year in the midfield, he is not too far off that. He reminds me of David Mundy in terms of how he uses the ball in and around stoppages. He's really composed, really good by hand. He stands up in the tackle. He's a really strong player, but he's so skillful as well when he gets to the outside. He's got a long kick on him. He likes to have a ping for goal. So it really reminds me of David Mundy, and he's just faster and more athletic. So I remember going into that draft, Matt Johnson was massively overlooked. He was touted early on in the year to go sort of top 10, top 15, slipped into the second round, and Freo took him. So that was a massive steal in my opinion from Freo. Club like West Coast could have Matt Johnson, but they took Campbell Chesser instead, which I think so far it's too early in their careers, but Matt Johnson, I believe, has the talent to be a top grade midfielder. Neil Erasmus is another player with massive levels of talent. Hasn't brought it as consistently as Matt Johnson has, in my opinion, but he's definitely had his best year this year. He had a really good game against Collingwood off the top of my head, and he's just finding his feet at the level. And then Jai Amos. Now, I think he's pretty stiff, in my biased opinion, not to win the Rising Star, because the kid's kicked 40 goals. I can't remember the last Fremantle Docker since Pav to kick 40 goals in a season. And God, this kid has some talent, boy. He is special. He can take massive contested marks. He's good at ground level. His footy IQ is really high as well. He makes great decisions on the ball. His set shot is immaculate. There's really not a lot that this kid can't do for a modern forward. So hopefully they can stay for many years to come, unlike Liam Henry, who was just pissed off to Victoria. And he's just got good as well. It's so annoying. Like, we've had to put up with some shit Liam Henry performances over the years. And then he just starts to be in the best positions, find the footy heaps. His disposal efficiency is pretty decent, even though it sort of seems like he butchers it all the time. And he wants to go. So I hope we get a first round compensation. But anyway, the new wave of players that are staying, Amos, Erasmus, and Johnson, looked really, really good this year. If you think about it in another 3 years' time, when these guys are the age that Brayshaw, Sarong, and Young are now, and Sarong, Brayshaw, and Young are in their primes, like, what a side that is going to be. I can't wait to see it. So exciting in the future. The second positive I wanted to talk about is unlocking a unicorn. Luke Jackson, it was a massive trade, one of the biggest trades in the last off-season to bring him home for, I think it was pick 5 and pick 22 in the end. It's massive stakes. Luke Jackson, a generational ruck talent for a first round and a second round pick. Like, it's going to make some impact in the league for years to come. And it was always going to take time for him to settle, but once he did, Luke Jackson had an absolutely outstanding season of footy. His tap work's elite. His follow-up efforts are so good. He basically plays as a fourth midfielder when he's in there in the ruck. He seems to be all over the ground as well. Like, he can go forward. He kicks a fair amount of goals for a ruckman, and then he sort of just is that leading target down the line. He'll drift back at times. He just seems to be everywhere. He's an absolute freak athlete, this kid, and to have him locked in for God knows how long, I assume he's going to stay at Freo for the rest of his career, given that he's traded to be back over here. It's really exciting that he's going to join that crop of young players that's going to build into the future. The only downside I've found to Luke Jackson being in the side is Sean Darcy's impact isn't as great as it was last year. If you think back to Sean Darcy's 2022, he'd drift forward a lot. He'd provide a really good option up forward with a big, strong contested mark. Too big, too strong. Not many players in the league can stop him. And he was really dominant around ruck contests. And when our midfield maybe hasn't worked as well in 2023, is that because Luke Jackson's taken away stoppage time from Sean Darcy, who's one of the better tap ruckmans in the league, especially as the game goes on? So yes, Luke Jackson has settled in and is a generational player and a gun talent. But at the same time, we've got Sean Darcy, who's a top 5 ruck in the league. So we need to maximise the impact of both. Kane Corns was pretty critical of the trade in general, but how that affects Sean Darcy, and I can see where he's coming from because we've got 2 big money players playing the same position, and they're sort of just having to share the load a bit too much at the moment. So hopefully we can find a better balance with that heading into next year. Another positive from Freo's season this year, I think, is our forward line. The mix of Josh Tracy, Jai Amos, and Sam Sturt. God, we've just been crying out for a good forward line for years and years and years. And maybe we're still not there just yet. Maybe we're a piece of the puzzle away. I think our small forwards, Frederick, Schultz, Switkowski, Tom Emmett just came out of nowhere and had a great end to the season as well. But I think those smalls are sorted. It's just whether these young forwards, Sturt, Tracy, and Amos, who are super duper young, can those 3 get their shit together as a young forward line and make it work? Because you see most successful forward lines, they've got at least one older player in there that can sort of, I don't know, brunt the load, I suppose, and take the best defender and whatnot. Whereas these 3 are very inexperienced. They've all played under 50 games, yet they have to bear the burden of kicking all of our goals, basically. I've spoke about Jai Amos, but Josh Tracy is so strong and powerful, loves a contested mark, loves running through packs, gets up and down the ground. He's really good. I like Tracy a lot. Sam Sturt, he's showed some promising signs in terms of just like his forward craft, being in the right places, hitting up, getting up the ground a bit, and his ball use is decent as well. So I hope we can see a full season of this forward line together. And it's just the first time in years where we've had like 3 decent forwards. Like the last I remember is Pav, Chris Mayne, and like Ballantyne. That's all I can sort of compare it to, because it's been so long having Taberner in there and Brennan Cox play a makeshift key forward in the Ross Lyon days and whatnot. So yeah, it's good to have 3 genuine forwards that have played together for a decent amount of the year, and they've all showed really promising signs. The last thing I wanted to talk about was Caleb Sarong and the captaincy. Now, Caleb Sarong, What an absolute superstar we have on our hands here. Got the All-Australian jumper already at the age of 22. This kid is super special, potentially a Brownlow medal winner in years to come. Brayshaw had a massive year last year, like every week, 30 disposals plus, 10 tackles, clearances, everything like that. But I can see when I go to the games, when I'm back home, I've always said, like, Sarong just has something that Brayshaw doesn't. I'm not sure what it is, whether it's like the skill difference or just genuine class and talent, I suppose. Brayshaw is such a hard worker. There's no one that works harder than him. He does absolutely everything right, like A-grade, textbook, by-the-book player. But I've always thought Sarong just has that little bit more than him. And I think if I was to choose a captain right now, for post Alex Pearce, I would go with Caleb Sarong. He never really has a bad game. He doesn't butcher the ball at all. He's such a contested beast. When there's like a push and shove, like Caleb Sarong is the first one in there standing up for his teammates. He leads by example on and off the field at such a young age. I haven't really liked Alex Pearce as captain. I think he's too nice in a way. Like everyone at the club obviously loves him, but you want a captain that scares you. You want someone like a Toby Green that just terrifies you. Patrick Cripps, just contested ball, like heart and soul of the club. Like I feel like Alex Pearce is just a bit too nice and lovely and caring, which is a great person to have at your football club. But as the captain, to inspire you on game day, do you want someone nice, or do you want that guy that's in the push and shoves, that's got his head over the ball all day, that runs his guts out for 4 quarters and sets the example? I think I'd probably prefer Sarong as my captain. And I think this has to be on the coaches as well. Like, don't leave the vote of captaincy to the players. If you're the coaching group, you know what's best for this football club, or supposedly know what's best for this football club. You make the full choice on who you want to lead your team on game day. I think it has to be Sarong. Alex Pearce, for me, he has too many bad games. Like, don't get me wrong, you have a good game, get a few good intercept marks, shut down a player like Jeremy Cameron, but when he's on the ball, he looks panicked, he butchers it, he scuffs his kicks. And when your captain's doing that, like, what does that say to the younger players? You know, when your man that is leading by example isn't leading by example, that leaves your team lost. Whereas I think Caleb Sarong really inspires the group on the field. And there were plenty of other positives to come out of the season. I think Jordan Clark had a really good year. Josh Tracy emerged, as I spoke about. But overall, I'd give it a flat 5 out of 10. 5 positives, probably 5 negatives as well. But if you can think of any other positives from Freo's season, I want to see them in the comments. So get them down below. It's good to be back making videos. There'll be a finals prediction out sometime next week, and I will be back in Australia next year ripping out content. So make sure you keep it locked to the Drewzy channel. For your pre-season programming, I can help you get to where you need to be. You can book a free video consult today on the Drewzy.Athlete Academy Instagram page. Just send us a DM and we can sort that out immediately. Leave a like on the video if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, and comment down below. Have your say, and I'll see you in the next video. Until then, take care. You plonkers.